Joe, it's great to have you on the show.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Yep, glad to be here. Thanks so much for the invite. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. This will be a little different, and that's kind of why I'm looking forward to it. Going over some of your background and your athletic career and the grit that it takes to do what you did, and to see how that transfers to success in medtech sales and marketing.
Yeah, well, yep, thanks. Excited to share my story and kind of what molded me to be, where I'm at today.
Yeah, I wanted to share something with you first. A little story about one of the reasons why I admire you so much and wanted to have this conversation. And it kind of goes back to childhood a little bit. When I was a kid growing up in Stonington, Connecticut, there was this guy here by the name of Matt Latham. And he was like our athlete, not only in my neighborhood, but in my small town of Stonington, Connecticut. And this is a guy that was just always balling every day in the neighborhood. Hoop, is always pick up basketball in his driveway, baseball, whatever. I mean, he would throw the football in the hoop court. He was just always in the neighborhood day and night. At night, bench pressing, probably after practice. And I followed him because he was, a couple houses down from me. My dad and I would go to all his games at basketball, football. And then in his senior year, he broke his leg. And I just remember watching the football games, high school, and he was on crutches, but still involved, helping out. And so that kind of hurt his college prospects, right? But he was determined to go to University of Connecticut, UConn. I grew up in Connecticut. And he got on the team as a walk-on. And he played every game for 4 years, was the team captain, still holds the record, I think, for interceptions at UConn, was drafted. He was short, small guy. And I think he got drafted by the Seahawks and maybe made it to preseason. But I always admired that, he had that setback, such a great athlete, but it didn't stop him, right? And he walked on and made a great college career, still holds many of the records at UConn. So I always admired him. And I now in more modern days, I know somebody that did something similar, right, in a way. And so I wanted to see if you could. That's why one of the reasons why, because I had that childhood, and I always wonder what he's doing now today. I guarantee you he's very successful, right? If he had the grit to do that. So
Yeah, right. No, that's a great story. Unfortunately, mine didn't go to the NFL. But yeah, I think it does take a unique, personality, work ethic, and like you said, grit, in order to succeed regardless. And so, yeah, I definitely can resonate with that story.
Yeah, well, tell us your story. How you made the trip cross country, basically, for an opportunity to be part of a team as a walk-on, and just kind of go through that process and what it took, the determination and grit to make that trek.
Sure. Well, I'll try to keep it brief.
Yeah, okay.
There's a lot to go in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I grew up north of Philadelphia. I was in a high school called Lehighton High School. It was about an hour and a half north of Philly, around the Allentown area. Pretty good high school player. I was an all-state running back at the time. And, it was time to go to college. My sister was out here at BYU as a student. And, that's kind of where I wanted to go. I got a bunch of letters from, 1AA schools and D2s and 3s around the time, but decided I wanted to go out and take a chance and walk on. And so actually I sent a bunch of highlight reel out to coach. Mm-hmm. And he came back and said, we're not looking for any running backs right now. He's like, we really like how you play, but we don't have a scholarship open. And so I was like, why don't you apply to school? And then, we'll take a look and see if we can get you on the team. And so long story short, I applied, and then I got declined. Oh. And so I called coach and said, hey, I got declined. He's like, well, he's like, just brag to me. Tell me accolades, things you've done in high school, social things. And so I kind of rolled out some of those, accolades that I've done there in high school. And then sure enough, a couple weeks later, I got my acceptance letter.
Ah,
Didn't have a scholarship for me, so I came in, and then I ended up walking on, playing a scout team, running back, my true freshman year. So I ended up redshirting when I came in. And then, I was born and raised Mormon in the LDS
okay.
church.
Okay.
And so, BYU being the Mormon school. And so I played for a season, and then I went and served a church mission for 2 years in Brazil,
Oh,
and then came back. Now, the problem with being a walk-on is then I had to try out again when I, when I
yeah.
came back.
Yeah. There's no guarantees.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I ended up coming back, tried out again. About halfway through the tryout, coach was like, "Hey, Joey, we got you. Go shower up." So, um, working my way up as a sophomore, I ended up starting a game, score a touchdown, and then worked into the starting lineup, playing a little bit here and there. Started, about half the games there sophomore year, and then senior year ended up being a running back captain.
Ah,
And so, I played probably 40-50% of plays, snaps on offense, a bunch of special teams, scored a few touchdowns. Got to score on a Thursday night ESPN game. But the gritty part is it takes a lot to succeed, and it has to be your own grit and your own will to do it, right? And especially as a walk-on, scholarship guys are catered to, and a lot of different schools are trying to recruit these guys. And so it's, hey, look at our amenities, look at what we can offer you. On the other side of the coin, as a walk-on, it's how bad do you want to be here, and you prove it, right?
Yeah.
And so, all the walk-ons and those guys, we all had 6 a.m. workouts, and so all through my freshman redshirt and true freshman year was up at 5 a.m, and I'd ride my bike or jog to the lifting area, and then they just beat the crap out of you.
yeah.
And so it was, where it's every morning, alarm goes off early, and you're sitting there. I'm like, all right, like, how bad do I want this? Like,
Yeah.
and that's what they do, right? And that's how they test you. And so, eventually, you work your way up, and then on scholarship, and then with the other group. But that grit, never leaves. I mean, the will to succeed is there. And fortunately, the hard work definitely pays off. And in something like football,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a direct correlation. Who's putting the work in, who's treating their body right, who's studying. It shows on the field that week or that season, right? And so,
Yeah.
Fortunately, that all showed up, and I feel like I ended up in the right spot. By the time I was done there.
You said that grit never leaves. How is that grit that that example that you gave kind of transferred over to your career in MedTech, both with Biomerics and now with Switchback? I mean,
Yeah.
the coach, your coaches aren't as they're a lot probably rougher than Travis and Brady, but
I don't know about all that.
okay.
No, I been very fortunate along my career to have incredible mentors. With at BYU, I feel like we had some of the best coaches in the country, and the things I've learned there have brought me through med device now into a leadership role.
Mhm.
Where while I was in a running back room, we had guys from all different backgrounds, all different ethnicities, and different things motivated them, and everyone couldn't be treated the exact same way, right? Because the motivation was different, the way that they respond is different. And what I really realized was coach understood all of that, and he understood how to get the most out of each the player according to what drives them. And so to me, that's correlated as building teams and working with teams, internally, whether it's internal teams or with our customers, fully understanding what drives and motivates them, and working into those strengths has been, way to success on both sides. So, seeing that from coach, and then my first, view into med device was with MarTech Medical.
Mhm.
And Frank DeBartolo is the VP of sales there at MarTech, and he's the first one that took a chance on me. And he actually reached out to somebody in my community who played football for BYU about 20 years before me, and he'd recommended. He was actually looking for a walk-on Division I athlete. And so, And the reason is that grit, because, especially in sales, you're rarely micromanaged, right? You're a territory rep, and you have to get out of bed on your own. You have to set up your own meetings. It's you running your own territory like a business. And so, it was the same way as a walk on. I had to want it enough. No one's there pushing me. I had to prove myself to earn my spot at the table. And so it's the same way, into the sales side. So, Frank taught me a lot. One of the big things that Frank showed was master your craft.
Hmm.
And, when I was, playing football, my craft is football. Be the best running back that I can be, whether it's studying, lifting, nutrition. And then to get into sales, it's now I have to study, the markets. Who's in my territory? What market are they in? How can our capabilities, help these customers? And so it's the studying the sales craft and, and being the best that I can there. And so going from Frank to, Travis.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Travis, I learned a ton. Travis is incredible. His depth of knowledge is mind blowing.
Yeah.
Right. And so
Yeah.
I've been fortunate enough to be along there for 7 years as Biomerics grew from 60 million up to, north of 400 million. And, along the ride for, M&A, for growth with strategics, for cracking into new companies and just learning about, contract negotiation, about where we want to place, the company in the market, what capabilities we want to add and why. And so very grateful to have the exposure to Travis and be working alongside of him, along these years. That's really been a giant growth curve for me. And, I see him as a mentor, along those lines.
Yeah.
And so now going into, Switchback and Brady and the core group of founders there, again, very fortunate to be there with industry leaders who've been, changing the landscape and adding technology and the growth and really pushing the med device industry forward through capability and really partnership with the OEM. So again, it's, I've gotten here through the lessons I've learned, through the mentors along the way.
You both guys are great. I love both of them. Good friends with both of those guys. So you are fortunate. You mentioned about kind of each person has their, I'm paraphrasing, but their skill sets. And I learned that when I first became a sales manager, right? And I was like, this is what works for me. This is how you need to do it. But that was not really a good approach because everybody has their own strengths and weaknesses. So that wasn't a good approach that I took. And I learned a lot from that early on as a sales manager. So that was a good point that you made.
Yeah, thanks. And I think part of it is also being self-aware enough to know where your weaknesses are.
Yeah.
We could spend 3, 4, 5 times the amount of time it would take someone that's their skill set, whether it's spreadsheets or, putting presentations together and things. Where if I have a conversation with somebody who's really, really good at it, we can get through things very, very quickly. Hey, this is how I want to see it and why, and then they can put it together. Where if I had to put that thing together, it would take me a week, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so I think really understanding, where those skill sets are, and again, knowing your weaknesses, they play to your strengths, and get help or hire out your weaknesses.
Good point. A lot of the theme I'm hearing is accountability and discipline, right? You're getting up every morning, just grinding, saying, "Oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do this," but you get up and put your shoes on and do it. I was listening to a podcast that you did with, I think somebody from BYU, associated with BYU football. And there was this Broncos accountability and effort, and Mendenhall's relentless focus on accountability and effort. And just wondering kind of how you and your team kind of rallied behind that mentality and how that's kind of transferred as well.
Yeah, Coach Mendenhall, he did a great job running the team. A lot of it was like a business, but with where the players set the strategy for the business and the goals. Right. And so as a running back captain, I had my group of running backs, but the captains would meet with the head coach and he would ask, what's our goals for the season? And so, I'll talk to my guys. What do you want to do? Oh, we want to, of course, national championship. Like, okay, let's top 3, what is it? Hey, we want to get 10 wins. We want to be conference champions. We want, average this many points a game. We took all those and took the top 3 and then met with coach. We identified these. And then, in our team room was, hey, this is what you decided you want out of this year. Our job as a coaching staff is to do whatever it takes to enable you to get there. And so then they put the plan together and they put the strategy, together, the workouts, all those things. And that's where the accountability, discipline, and effort came in. And that was it. We had wristbands that had ADE on them, shirts, and the whole deal.
Mm-hmm.
And so, with those 3 things is, the accountability part is, it's accountable to yourself, doing what you say you're going to do, and then accountable to your teammates because everybody else is relying on each other. You get into a team sport like that. It's, if I'm a running back, I mean, if the offensive line doesn't put in the work in and do what they need to, well, then, running back can't win. I mean, look at Saquon Barkley at the Giants.
Yeah.
Right. And so, and same thing all around. And so it's the same to the coaching staff. And so it was for accountable to ourselves, to each other, and then discipline on the detail level, on the micro level is where the discipline, ends up really mattering because everyone can get up at 5:30, go get their workouts in. Everyone can make the sales calls, but the discipline on when you're doing your reps, everyone's locked out. It was a point where, if you didn't touch a line, the whole team had to start over, for workouts. And it was, hey, your lockers have to be this way. Helmets are here, jerseys are here, cleats are here. And so when you start to get that discipline down on this tiny little level, well, the macro stuff takes care of itself. And so, and then effort, effort drives everything. And that's what I tell as I have other colleagues and peers in the industry, as I'm building a team out, is as long as you have the effort side and the grit, we can teach the rest. We can guide and coach, but I can't teach somebody to want to get out of bed in the morning and to want to make the hard phone calls and to want to make those tough decisions and to, leave your family to go on a sales trip every week or 2 weeks. And so, if we have that side, we can teach the rest. And so, and say, coaching is, if you're going to make a mistake, make it at 100%, and then we'll fix it.
Right. Yeah. You talk about micro, and we're kind of comparing, sports analogies to real world business, and the World Series is a perfect example, right? That was won on inches, less than inches, right? The lead that he took on third base, him sliding instead of running through, all those little details, right, meant the World Series.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah. Awesome. Let's talk, now we can talk a little bit about, what you're doing now with Switchback. And I think, and you can fill me in, I think that's also association with Lightning Calf and maybe Protolaze, right? Tell us what's new there.
Yeah, no, it's a very exciting time. Yeah, I've been with Switchback now about 6 months, just over 6 months. Came in as VP of Business Development, and so I don't know if you saw the news, but we took on a strategic partnership with TJC.
Yeah,
congrats. Yeah, thank you very much. And again, it's really the catalyst to our next stage of growth. And so now Protolaze and Lightning Calf are Switchback companies. They're kind of our sister companies. Now we work together. And for myself on the BD side is kind of building that platform over all of it.
Okay.
And so, the roadmap, what we see here is, we'll likely, look to add some capabilities into that Switchback family as we grow. But really keeping the DNA of Lightning Calf and Protolaze, where it is. Again, fortunately to be here with Brady and Randy and that leadership team, but also, Matt Austin there, leading Lightning Calf. He's an incredible talent, and again, grateful to be associated with this new team. And then Protolaze as well with their capabilities. It's again, it's been these great teams coming together, and so that the setup's been awesome. I love to see the way, and again, very fortunate to be able to step into something that's built well and running very well and efficiently. And, it's a true testament of who the team is and who the companies are. And because I'm the first, business development resource that Switchback has brought in. So it's been that
Yeah, it's
successful.
amazing.
And it's based on reputation. It's based on prior relationships. It's based on, um, the team's performance. And so we end up getting next, or somebody will go to a different company or spin up a new one, and they come to us because they've already built that trust, and we've already done great work with these companies along the way. And so, knowing that that's the team that I've stepped into, it's a really high level of confidence on the performance, to date, and really excited to scale it. So, with Switchback, doing a lot of full dedicated teams to development programs. And so,
Okay.
really based in the catheter space, a lot of catheter based programs in the interventional market, right? We're very
Yeah.
heavy on the structural heart, interventional cardiology, and neurovascular. But still, we're in some, the GI space and Euro, and um, you know, really focus on those type of things. So if you look at Switchback, it's a lot of the kind of the full development programs, and then also on the transfer side. And so
Okay.
we just had a groundbreaking there in Costa Rica, to really be able to sustain the life cycle of products with our customers, all the way through early stage
Okay.
development, through commercialization, all the way through some cost downs and line extensions there in Costa Rica, as the companies that we're with are growing and scaling. And so it's a really nice model because we have the full dedicated teams with Switchback, and then we have Lightning Cath, who is doing component level extrusion, um, the multi-lumens bumps. We have a lot of very high talent with Matt Austin and Ben Everett there. And,
Yeah.
again, looking to grow and scale that more, but also a lot of the expertise that Lightning Cath does is the early stage prototyping on the catheter and component shaft side. And so now we get the full, scalability of Switchback. But if you're a smaller company and you're looking for 10 prototypes, or you're looking for, something relatively inexpensive and quick, now we still have Lightning Cath that's their core business, is doing those types of work,
Gotcha.
right? But then we have the scalability of what Switchback is. Let's say it gets commercialized, gets bought by a strategic or whatever it needs. We still have that support system. And so
Yeah.
keeping the companies separate enough so that it just doesn't become one large conglomerate and slows everybody down is the strategy that we're going forward with, so that Matt Austin and his team at Lightning Cath can keep doing what they're doing, but they have the full support, full scalability, of Switchback.
Yeah. That's a good solution. Are you finding yourself more involved with early stage projects now than you have been in the past?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think historically a lot of it's been, some of the early stage companies going through again that prototyping, cycles, and getting them through clinical trials, ended up through to commercialization, or to getting through an acquisition from strategics. And so I'm seeing now we're starting to see a shift to see the strategics come through. A lot of the large OEMs are now showing, I think we're now showing the scale that we're not the risk that maybe they've seen before as Switchback was growing. And so now we're starting to see doing, multiple tours coming through our sites. And, we're now really getting in the doors with these guys. And it's starting to get rare that people haven't heard of Switchback now. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's that's what I said, I think the next couple of years, setting ourselves up with Costa Rica, having transfer teams. So now we'll have the ability to do line transfers from production there in Minnesota at Switchback or Lightning, as well as doing a lift and shift, whether we're pulling from a different CM, or we're pulling a product line internally at one of these strategics down to our Costa Rica site. It's again a really exciting time for us here as we start to grow.
Yeah, it sounds like a great opportunity. And you being the business development person is kind of unique too, because you can kind of set the structure, right? You're not coming into, I mean, I'm sure there's an existing structure, but there wasn't a leadership in that area.
Yeah, exactly right. And I've fortunately, again, having the experience, scaling with a company that was 2 or 3 locations and has grown up to 13,
Yeah.
and going through and seeing a lot of the very positive things that happened, and then some things that maybe wish we would have done earlier. A CRM or an ERP system that's scalable at the size that Switchback is now. So that's kind of where we're at. Is all right. What are we going to look like in next year? What are we going to look like in 3 years, 5 years?
Yeah.
And let's make sure we put the processes in place today, that can scale with where we're heading.
Right.
And so I think so. It is unique. But it's again, like I said, it's really, really exciting time to be here. I think the team's great. I think there's a lot of capability that we have to offer. And really, partnership is the core of who Switchback is. And if you know Brady, that's who he is, and that's who our customers are. And to see the customers reach right out to him, because of that, he's been very available. He's on customer calls as much as he can, and that's number one. And if you've been through Switchback and Lightning and Proto, that culture and customers is number one, and that's how the DNA of the company's been.
Yeah, it's interesting because Brady's given me 2 tours over the last maybe 3 years, and you could see that the progression, and certainly it's a fun place to work, probably because of the golf and the gym and all these other amenities. And now you guys have a grill outside, and you do a lot of things to support people. It's not just work. There's some fun component as well.
Yeah, there's no question there. But on that, it's interesting because culture really drives productivity, and that drives accountability as well, right? Because a lot of with the culture being treated that way at work, you feel obligated and you want to do a good job. And so, as you walk around the facility, you'll see very, very engaged teams, people walking with purpose into their meetings. If there's a standing, just kind of ad hoc, meeting in the hallway, it's customer focused. We're talking about a problem, talking about solutions, and it's really is work hard, play hard. And it's really the culture has been amazing, but it's one of those things that's they acknowledge that it's it's an easy thing to let go of, and you have to consciously keep the culture the way you want it to be and curate it, right?
Yeah,
because it can go away quick without anybody noticing, right? It's one of those things that next thing you know, like, dang, this is not a fun place to work anymore.
Right. Well, we've seen that a lot in private equity, right? Unfortunately, there's good stories and there's not so good stories about how that culture has changed, especially with lifestyle quote type companies that are all of a sudden private equity now. And so, yeah, man, this has been great, Joe. I really appreciate your time, and thanks for sharing the story and what you have planned for Switchback. Wishing you and Brady and the team, Matt, Lightning Cath, Proto Lace, the best of luck.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Steve. Very grateful to be on here. Appreciate your time and taking this opportunity to kind of share where I've come from and where we're headed.
Like you said, work hard, play hard.
Exactly right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.